Write it again, only this time use an O instead of an A. That's the exact same word. Exact same word. Only now you're using an O instead of an A. So what does it become? Dio?
Dio.
So what is Dio? You don't know. Isn't that? But you're always running around talking about God this and God that. Ain't that something?
Yes, sir.
So you have a clue what Dio is. Dios is actually, what is Dios?
Dios.
Dios.
God.
God.
If you are Dios, is Dio. Change.
Dio.
Dio.
That's right. You change DIA to DIO and you're going to get what you're actually speaking about. What did you say?
Can you interchange the D with THO?
Ah, no. Yes, you can, but now you're going to Greek, THE. But hold on, don't worry about that right now, because if we do that, we're going to go too fast.
I got you.
All right? Because, this is wow. Now, that's a good question. But now, don't do that right now. Just wait on that one. All right? What we're talking about is dia. Huh?
I'll tell them to call it B.
Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Dia is when you split something, right? You cut something. Matter of fact, you have your dictionaries. Why don't you just look up dia in your dictionary? And if you do not see anything giving you a good example for dia, then find a word that starts out with dias and look at your etymology bracket and actually see what it's telling you in the bracket. Now, dia is, if it's talking about day, what are you talking about when you talk about day? How many hours in a day?
24.
Oh, okay, good. 24 hours in a day. So that means the total day is actually 24 hours, right?
So how many hours of the night?
Well, is night part of day?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So that's still part of the day. But at the same time, we'll split in half.
Two sides.
The light and the darkness. All right? 12 and 12.
Wow.
There's your deal. All right? There's your cutting. All right?
So with like, any word, like you said, deal with dialogue.
Dialogue would be good. Look in your etymology bracket. Now you got a problem with that little letter writing dictionary.
Yeah.
I don't care if it has an etymology bracket in it. It's a letter writing dictionary. That is not going to serve your purposes. So if that's all you have for tonight, good. By next week, find at least a college dictionary. At least. I think someone brings unabridged sometime. Unabridged is even better. But at least work with college dictionary. You do not want to start your children with letter writing dictionaries. Other than the fact that they're just learning to spell, maybe. You know, that's all a letter writing dictionary is good for. If you really want to learn the language, start with a college dictionary. One of the worst things you could ever do is introduce your children to dictionaries that have been designed for high school. That's one of the worst things you can do. All right, because the information is going to be kind of, how should I say, abrupt. It's not going to really be put together in a fashion where it explains anything. It's going to all be more or less textbook. Have you ever noticed you go to a bookstore to buy a book and you never see textbooks? Why is that?
Good question.
That's right. Yeah. Now how about this? You want to find textbooks, you have to go to a school bookstore. You won't find textbooks being sold in a bookstore. Guess what? Tell me what? Huh?
They charge people?
No. Don't nobody buy textbooks. Don't nobody read textbooks. Can't sell textbooks in a bookstore. They don't sell them. They're boring. People just don't. People don't read them. Most times, people already can't read. They're graduating from the best colleges and they can't read. So you know what's happening when they graduate. Matter of fact, we're working with those students now. You know all the students that graduated like you did from Memphis Public Schools. You did graduate from Memphis Public Schools, didn't you? Well, we've been doing a pre-test with those students. They just graduated from BTW. They had the president over there and everything. The average one scored a 14.
That's a fact.
And they have not been prepared and they cannot read.
On the ACT.
But we're doing and we're doing different kinds of evaluations in the class. And they cannot read. And when you started this class, I know for a fact that you could not read. I don't know if you're starting to do anything about it yet. That's on you if you choose to do something. I'm going to point. Huh?
No, I don't want to interrupt, but I wanted to emphasize that the President of the United States came to this school because they had been presented as having progressed so well within a system that was failing. And I was talking to a young man who told me he was going to school to be a pharmacologist. And so I talked to him about math because my son is a math major. And I was telling him about all the requirements and he knew nothing about this. Nobody had talked to him about it. In fact, he made a 10 on the ACT.
But you know how well black people are doing, like they say. They're doing great.
They lying.
I guess. But if you really practice with this language, you're going to find some fascinating things. And I just really don't think anybody's going to tell you how to do this. So that means you have to teach yourself how to do what you need to do in order to find out what you might need to know. So what I'm hoping that we're doing is kind of pointing to you things that you can do. We're dealing with Diabo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you wrote the word dia, you have your pencil on paper, draw a circle. Draw a circle. Now draw your polar line from 0 degrees to 180 degrees. Draw your line straight down through the center of your circle. What kind of line is that? What kind of line is that? Right? Vertical line. Good. Vertical line. Now, if we've drawn the line from 0 degrees to 180, what did we just do? Did we just split the circle? Mm-hmm. We did? Well, when the circle, before we split it, when it was a total circle, it is how many degrees?
360.
Where did it start?
At the top.
Where did it start? What degree was it at the top when it started?
0.
0 degrees. And then it has to come around, all the way around, and then it comes back to itself and it's completed 360 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we draw this line, this polar line down the center, we can actually use it as a symbol or symbolize the splitting of something. What does the symbol actually symbolize for us?
Is it day and night?
No, when we split the ball, that's the Diabo. When it's a symbol, the ball is together, the circle is together. It's a total 360 degrees. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be a circle if it's done right, because once you finish, by the time you finish, that's going to be both a circle and a square. Once you finish, once you put all the correct lines in there, that's going to be a geometrical diagram. You know, that's why I made the statement weeks ago on Sunday. If they're not talking about geometry at the same time they're talking about Jesus, then they're not talking about Jesus. That's right.
When you showed us, we were talking about peace and Hotep and the number 7.
That's right. We're talking about the Tetragrammaton. Because in fact, once you understand the symbol, whether it's the Ankh, or whether it's the symbol for biology, or the symbol for the planet Earth, it's all in your dictionary. You know what? Someone might listen to me and think I'm making something up. That would be nice, except for the fact that it's in your dictionaries. Why don't we know that it's there? I'm just kind of curious. Why don't we know that it's in the dictionary? The things that people would be so critical about what I might say sometime, how you know that? Where you getting that from? Open up your dictionary.
So
It's
in other
right
words,
there.
Anderson's getting mad at you.
What's the matter at me for? It's in the been there all the time. What they mad at me for?
Because I hadn't heard that.
Well, that's not my problem. I don't understand. If it's been in that dictionary all the time, why didn't anyone ever bother to show you?
They didn't know.
They didn't know. So you mean to tell me And people like to use that as an excuse all the time about what someone doesn't know. And then everybody's trying to find, I'm not trying to blame anybody for anything. But I do understand when someone will admit they don't know. Now it just depends on how they admit it. Because a lot of times, people don't like to admit they don't know. Is that the right thing? A lot of times they get real upset if you actually put them into a position to expose the fact that they don't know. They're really upset.
I just had it happen to me.
But why? Because I'm trying to teach them, these children, that child there, coming to my class, he was in my class this morning. One of the first things I want him to learn is to say, I do not know. If he can admit to himself that he does not know, he might decide to do something about not knowing.
So,
if he does something about not knowing, we're getting something done.
if I'm telling myself, if I'm fooling or lying to myself, that I do know, when in fact I don't.
Now you have a predisposition that's going to stop you from ever trying to know.
So I can never learn.
You won't ever learn. And I know a whole group of people that I've been around all of my life that have been fighting the process of learning. And anybody that comes along, I don't care who it has been, that comes along that really tries to get them to learn, everybody's mad at them. I'm wondering why. But we're talking about Diabos. And when we split the symbol, and the symbol is that circle you have in front of you, right? And it is together. There's a total of 360 degrees. Once we split it, it becomes a diabol. Now, the word diabol is actually the root of the word diabolical. The word diabolical is actually the correct word in Latin and then Espanol and Italiano and Portuguese that you want to call what y'all call the devil. But now when you call it the devil, you're actually speaking a word that never existed until some hillbillies up in the mountains who could not say the word correctly, and because they could not pronounce the vowels correctly. What are you teaching your children about the vowels? What are the vowels?
A-E-I-O-U.
A-E-I-O-U. So you just told me who you are. You the kid, you the child of Snuffy. Because you speak like Snuffy. That's how Snuffy taught us to say the vowels. And that's how we think the vowels are correct. But this is weird. You're also telling me that English comes after French, right?
Yeah.
English comes after Espanol or Spanish, right?
Right.
What are the vowels in Spanish again, Nefer?
A, E, I, O, U.
No, this is weird. The vowels in French are what?
A, E, I, O, U.
Swahili?
A, E, O, U.
Italian?
A, E, I, O, U.
It's the same way until you get to English.
A-E-I-O-U.
This gets to be weird. It makes me think that English must not be correct. And now, you know what? When we hear someone teach us the language thinking they know what they're doing, we're running around saying words like slave. It's Slav, that's right. And guess what we named our children? Mercedes. But you really meant to say Mercedes. You follow me?
Maceo.
Maceo when we meant to say Maceo. Yeah. Now we're starting to get this correct because now we're starting to hear the vowels correctly. Once you can hear the vowels correctly, now you can speak other languages easily. But if someone has you thinking that what you're doing is correct, and I want to know from y'all, why y'all think so much that these people gave you some truth?
Wow.
I don't either, because as a matter of fact, the guy that invented American English didn't say this. What we're being taught in the schools, the guy that invented, the person who invented American English was being taught in these schools today. He didn't say none of that. He said the vowels correctly spoken are A, E, I, O, U. And guess what? You look like you might be as old as me. It's possible. You probably.
Más mayor.
Yeah, but I mean, are you all as old as me?
Older.
Oh, you think so? Well, how about this? When we, I don't like that we stuff because we speaking French. But when I was a child, and I'm figuring since you might be older than me, you might remember this. We had a thing in the school called a blueback speller. Do you remember the blueback speller?
Yeah.
A little thin book. It was real thin. I think it cost them about 10 cents. There was a guy by the name of Noah Webster had actually created the blueback speller. And all the kids used to have this blueback speller. If you went through that blueback speller, you could actually learn to read. And so back then in them colored schools that I went to, they were learning how to read. Now I can't figure this out because now today in these schools, the children not learning how to read and they don't know the vowels. Or at least they think the vowels are correctly spoken. What did you tell me a minute ago? Hotep, what did you tell me?
A-E-I-O-U.
And that's what you teach your children in.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? That's incorrect.
Correct.
The reason I know it's incorrect is because Spanish is older, French is older, Italian is older, Latin is older, and if all those languages are older, and if every language on the planet is saying R-A-E-O-U, until you get to English, and then all of a sudden you got 5 ways to say the vowel. Well, something here must be incorrect. Well, then why doesn't anyone want me to figure this out?
Mr. Black,
Yeah.
what deficit does that cause?
Causes a lot of deficit because when I cannot hear the vowel sounds, I can't hear the language. And I'll never speak the language correctly, whatever it is that I'm trying to learn. And then so when our children go to school and they say they're learning foreign languages, that's what they say in the schools, but the only way they can say the vowels is A-E-I-O-U, they'll never speak the language.
So when
wait a
they go
minute,
like-
wait a minute, sometimes what?
Sometimes why?
When you heard that sometimes why stuff?
In English.
Yes, you've heard that sometimes why, right? What is that sometimes?
I don't know.
Ah, isn't that strange? And all of our children are in that same position. They don't know either. I'm doing lectures in colleges and I'll ask people, what are the vowels? And they'll say A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. And I'll ask them, well, what is that sometimes? And guess what? They tell me everything. Some of them, every now and then, will catch one say, I don't know. But most of them, they lie. And they say all kinds of stuff. None of it is correct. Isn't that something? It's weird. Well, you said, will that create a deficit? I suggest to you, if you are speaking a language that you don't know anything about, oh yeah, it creates a deficit.
So are you, if I was pronouncing the vowels correctly and I said they brought Slavs over here,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to think differently about the word then.
Well, number one, you would know for a fact that the word that you're saying, number one, does not come out of Africa. And if the word doesn't come out of Africa, I want to know how these other people that they want to say came out of Africa came out of Africa. Because they got all my children thinking something about some damn slave. And then all the slaves came out of where?
Africa, of course.
Isn't that strange? And we're trying to figure out how the lie is actually getting told and who's telling the lie. See, because I think personally, I think a lot of y'all that's around here trying to save so-called black folks are telling the same lie.
It was like one of the prominent attorneys on Facebook today said that Christmas Adams was a slave.
Ah, well, you know what? If he said it to me, I'd have cursed him out.
Well, I did it away.
I know that I have had people say to me, George Washington Carver, you talking about the peanut man. Isn't that right? Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah.
See, when kids used to be in my class and they say that stuff, I have to get them to get out of my room. I have to leave. What are you talking about, George Washington Carver, the peanut man? What are they talking about?
Science.
Oh, and then they said, well, that's what they had been taught in school. Okay, tell you what you do. Get out of my room and go do some research, and I'll come back and tell me about George Washington Carver. Now, guess what happens after we're going to do some research? We find out that no, this was not the peanut man. What did he do?
He was a scientist.
What kind of scientist? How many sciences was he involved with? What is a scientist?
Right.
Come on, what is a scientist, baby? I thought you raised your hand. A scientist is a chemist? No, I don't think so.
George Washington Carver was a chemist.
Well, among other things, that was one of the things that he did. He involved himself with chemistry. What else? What else?
Agriculture.
Agriculture.
At one time, the United States at one time was gonna charge him with sedition or being a traitor because he actually went to Germany and helped them manufacture something, but he didn't take any money.
The Germans came over here, came to Tuskegee, and they took him back to Germany, paid for everything, and offered him a lot of money. That is correct. But not only the Germans, so did the English who were controlling Ghana. Right, because they had a cotton crop that they had imported from India that they were growing in Ghana. And plus they were having some problems with their trees. All right, and they wanted him to help them. And he did, he helped. And because he helped, there were some people in Congress who wanted to charge him, but there were some more problems about this. Now we need to go in and find out the different Congress, you know how they have the assemblies in Congress?
Right.
Matter of fact, the one that's assembled now, which one is it? What is it? Which one is it? Which one is it? Which one is it? The what?
137.
Are you listening carefully, everybody? What did he say?
137.
Well, don't we know this? Now, he might be wrong, but we don't know if he's wrong or not, do we? Because we don't really know, do we? But let me ask you a question. When they opened up this particular Congress, the one they're having right now, how did they open it up? How did they open it up? Somebody just told everybody here how they opened it up.
3 knocks there.
3 knocks at the door. 3 knocks at the door. What did they knock with? No, sir. No. You talking about the judge who knocks with the gavel on the bench, right? Well, that's not the doors of Congress. And the doors of Congress, when they open up, is similar to how they used to get in to Parliament. And the way they get into Parliament is similar to how they used to get into the King's meeting. And when they had to open the door for a public meeting, they had to use a scepter to knock on the door. But wait a minute, let's not go to England, let's not deal with all that. Let's go to Cuba. You ever been to Cuba? Never been to Cuba, but we always want to talk about we black peoples, right? This is weird. I'm listening to all this black talk, but we've never bothered to investigate Cuba. Oh, what did I say right? Cuba?
Cuba.
Oh, it's Cuba. I like that. I like that. Well, funny thing, they have over in this place called Cuba, they have this thing called Futuro Cultura. And what we're talking about is folk culture. All right? Cultura. And this folk culture, in this folk culture, they have this thing called Aranco. Now, everybody here participated in Aranco, haven't you?
No, sir.
Oh, you go to hell for that.
Well, wait a minute. If you ever participated in Aranco, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Well, how y'all always talking about the music, like you know so much about the music? There's a lot of music that came once upon a time with a group of people that actually may have gotten kidnapped, that wound up in the Western Hemispheres, and the music came with them. And the music stayed with them all the time. You know who talks about it all the time in his music? Carlos Santana, brother out of San Francisco. He always talks about this. And what I'm curious about is how come a lot of people relative to me is always talking about how they're champions for black people, don't know anything about the music. And if we really want to find out something about so-called black people, maybe we pay attention to music. It's real easy to really understand. But Aranco, when you want to get in to a meeting that's going on, what do you have to do to get in? You have to knock. The person knocking might receive a response to the knock, and someone will say something, and they'll speak in a language, and the one that just knocked has to respond in a language. Now, usually the people doing this, they don't really know the language, but those words that are used have been passed down and passed down and passed down, And you know what? I had a friend of mine that actually made a recording and almost got killed about this because someone found out that they had made it. And this is something you're not supposed to do. But they took the recording and they were supposed to be trying to get it translated from some people out of Nigeria. You follow me? But the people out of Nigeria did not recognize what was being said. So that means they came out of Cuba, and because the language out of Cuba among these people, they call it Yoruba. So they took it over to Nigeria, and they were going to get some Yoruba-speaking people to translate it. They couldn't translate it. You know why?
It had changed.
That's
it
right.
evolved while it
That's
was
right.
there.
You see, the language that came out of Cuba, 400 or 500 years old. But the languages in Nigeria, nobody recognizes that. As a matter of fact, I have friends who actually have gone to school in England and France and the United States and different places. And when they go home and they go out into their villages and they're talking at different levels with people, they don't understand what some of these people are talking about. This is in Nigeria. But wait a minute, I can do this in Arkansas. I can take you to Arkansas and we got some people that can talk and you will never know what they're talking about.
Gullah
Say that again.
Gullah Island. I've witnessed
That's
that
going
myself.
over toward the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Around here, we just speak a little dry long so.
Yeah, look at it.
Wait.
Dry long so, you don't know the term?
No, sir.
You need to find out what dry long so was once upon a time. It's not around too much anymore. But once upon a time, do you remember us talking about Pig Latin?
Yes, sir.
Once upon a time, there were people who actually could speak to each other, and everybody didn't know what they were talking about. Do you know why you needed to speak in such a way that everybody knows what you're talking about sometimes?
Might save your life.
Just might.
Sheriff might be there. Boss might be there looking for somebody.
Just might save your life. Matter of fact, I tell you what you might want to learn to do with your children. Talk to them in the same way you talk on the baseball field. Didn't you learn to talk on the baseball field? How did the third base coach talk to you when you were coming around? Or when you were standing there, he might have told you to run or stay. How did the pitcher talk to the catcher? How's everybody talking to everybody? Signals. Good. Was that how you and your children talk? Because you should be teaching them how to do that. You should be teaching them to shut up or pay attention.
Hustlers develop.
Some hustlers have.
Develop a language to give signals, like they might say, raise the pads. And, I mean, seriously, there's some real language.
There is different language, and you better understand this language and how it works. Anyway, I don't want to get too far. We were at Diabo, right? And symbol, right? Symbol is when the ball is together. When the ball is together, you're looking at knowledge. Because knowledge symbolically is supposed to represent, or is represented by 360 degrees.
Doc, I have a question.
Okay.
We were, the other day when we were in class, you used the D, the W, and the F.
Okay.
Everybody else.
All right.
Well, with the Y also figuring that?
Yes, yeah, because the Y is a very strange letter. And you have to understand the history of the Y to understand how it's so strange. But I'd rather that everyone actually does some work over a period of time before we really get this conversation about this Y. Does everyone here know how the V and the W and the U and the F are all the same letter? Does everyone here know why or how? I'm asking a question.
No, sir.
No. Do you have an alphabet book? Well, pull it out. We were talking about the story of civilization on the site, right? And I think also what, on Facebook?
Yeah, but basically on Red Pill.
Red Pill on the site.
Yeah, you posted it.
And what I had suggested for all of you who are interested in talking about civilization, I really don't like or want to get caught up in any conversations with people who haven't done any work. it really gets to be a waste of my time because we get arguments.